Trent Harvey, I got that work, now rock out.
Let me see. Not you, bro. You know what? All right. Okay. I see how it is. Lucky I don't have my emotes on PlayStation app. Luckily, it don't seem like nobody awake yet, so deal with that later. It's all good though. It's all good. Because for my one, there's usually about 3 or 4 for you. That's all I'm going to say about that. All right. Alright, welcome home with a lady, Blue Flames. Happy Friday. Welcome in. Today we are covering the Professional Women's Hockey League playoffs, and we are also going to discuss week 2 of the WNBA. I finally got me some Professional Women's Hockey League merch. New York, closest team to me, so that's who I caught. I got the nice tee. I got me a comfy hoodie. So, you know, I always got to get me a nice hoodie. So I got me a hoodie as well. And then I got this hockey puck, which is pretty cool. It's got New York on it and the logo for the league. It's an official puck. So got a couple things. Told you guys I was going to get something to represent just about every women's league there is. Plus, I definitely have plenty of WNBA stuff, so I wanted to work on the other leagues. So I got a couple things from hockey. I got to work on a couple things from the soccer league, and then a few other things. But going league to league. So right now, I got my hockey gear for New York. So I'm excited about that. Now, they just finished their finals, their 2025 season, second season of the league. And if you recall, the Minnesota Frost won the first championship in 2024. They won this year, so they are back-to-back champs in the Professional Women's Hockey League. The Minnesota Frost, back-to-back champs, year 1 and 2. We'll watch some highlights, but I'll just briefly go over. It was a best-of-5 series. Game 1, the Charge won 2-1 against the Frost. Overtime game. Game 2, another overtime game. Frost won 2-1 against the Charge. Game 3 went 3 overtimes. Frost won that game. That puts them up 2-1. Game 4 also went to overtime, and the Minnesota Frost came out victorious. So every game went at least 1 overtime. And I was watching even in the semifinals, a lot of the playoff games went into at least 1 overtime. Some of them a lot more overtimes, but a lot of their games went into overtime. And we'll watch some highlights and see how this all unfolded. But congratulations to the Minnesota Frost, back-to-back champions in the PWHL. Big congrats. So we got to see how the other teams start to develop over the next few years. We also got 2 new teams coming in for 2026. So that may shake things up a little bit as well, because they're going through expansion just like the W is going through expansion. So it's an exciting time. And talking about expansion, they have their expansion draft coming up and then their regular draft coming up. So some key dates coming up for the Women's Hockey League. June 3rd, all the teams have to hand in their list of players they're protecting. And each team gets 3 players they can protect from the expansion draft. Okay? And then the 2 expansion teams, once that list is turned in, they have 5 days to sign players before the expansion draft. And then on June 9th, that list closed. June 9th, they have the actual expansion draft. Both teams get 7 players each from the other teams, a mix of wherever they get the players from. And then on June 24th is the actual league draft. They go 6 rounds. And I didn't know this before I got my gear, but New York has the number 1 pick in this year's draft. So we gonna see. I got to do a little more research to see the up and coming players and see who's looking to go with the top of the draft. So we'll have another episode in depth about the players coming in for 2026, how the draft is shaping up, obviously before the draft show. So I'll be working on that in the next 2 weeks, seeing who's coming in, what players have finished their current contracts, and all that stuff. So exciting time for the Hockey League, the 2 new teams, their draft coming up. So it was a great season. As I said, Minnesota Frost, back-to-back champions in the Women's Hockey League, y'all. First 2 years of the league, Minnesota Frost has won the championship, which is amazing and pretty cool. And we'll see how the next few years shape out with the new teams and player movement because of the new teams, and see how that works and see who ends up where and who gonna show out. But that is all of the updates for the Women's Hockey League. So before I shift to the W, we're going to watch a few highlights from the finals. As I said, I finally got my merch. I got the New York shirt. As I told y'all, New York is the closest team to me. So I got the shirt. And of course, you know, I had to get me a hoodie just because I love hoodies. And then the puck, which I've never played hockey. I've never played hockey, but the puck is pretty cool. I thought it would be a little bit heavier, but I'm kind of glad it's not. I know I wouldn't be trying to get hit by no puck. Listen, the women's teams in Minnesota have been playing. So, I mean, the Minnesota Lynx for the W is still undefeated right now. But people be wanting to sleep on the women's leagues. That's all I'm saying. So, like I said, I'm going to try to plan so that next year I could possibly go to a hockey game in New York. New York actually has the number 1 pick this summer in the hockey draft. So I got to do my research and see who coming out, what the big names are right now, and see what's popping. But that is the plan. Because that'll definitely be the closest I can go to a live hockey game. That's like one of the few sports that I haven't been to a live game yet, and they look so fun. Like I don't like the cold, but the hockey games look fun live. I mean, it might be. I got to look up if their puck is different than the men's game. I have no idea. That's a good question. Because, I mean, the basketball is different for men's and women. So, I don't know if the puck is different. I will have to look that up. It's a possibility. But I don't. That's the first time I've ever seen, like, an actual real hockey puck. Because, like I said, I didn't play hockey. I didn't learn how to ice skate. So, I don't know any of that stuff. So, I'm learning as I'm sharing with y'all. But I do remind you guys of the upcoming dates for the Hockey League. As I said, Minnesota Frost just won their back-to-back championship. They got their expansion draft June 8th. Actually, the expansion draft is June 9th. Because they got 2 teams starting in 2026. So 2 teams will be selecting players from the other teams. Each current team can only protect 3 players. And then they also have their actual draft on June 24th. They go 6 rounds. And as I said, New York has the number 1 pick. The rest of the order hasn't been announced yet. So once they announce the order, the next couple weeks I'll be doing my research on players that are protected, the unprotected, and who's coming in from either college or international leagues. So the next 2 weeks I'll be doing like my extensive player hockey research. But those are the upcoming dates for the Hockey League. It was definitely this is my first time watching the playoffs. I watched the semifinals and all those as well. And when I tell you, almost every single game went to overtime. Maybe with the exception of like 2, maybe 3 games. Almost every game went to at least 1 overtime. They had 1 game, I think, that went 5 overtimes. Like, they was out there playing some hockey. Get back to it. Get to the second week of the WNBA. Alright. Did not... Oh, I just need the standings. Open up my WNBA app. The WNBA. So we talked about everything leading up to last Friday. So we'll start with Saturday games. Alright. Alright, switching leagues. 2 weeks are down into the 2025 WNBA season. Last episode, we recapped the first week. So this week, we will talk about week 2. Week 2, New York played Indiana. They beat Indiana by 2 points. So New York is still undefeated. Atlanta beat Dallas. Then Atlanta beat Connecticut. The Sparks beat Chicago. Phoenix beat Washington. Seattle beat the Aces. Dallas beat Connecticut. New York beat Golden State. So New York is still undefeated. Minnesota beat Seattle. They are still undefeated. Atlanta beat the Sparks. And Phoenix beat Chicago. Washington beat Indiana. And then New York beat Golden State, and then Chicago beat Dallas. Chicago got their first win against Dallas, so they are no longer winless this season. Let's see where we are standings wise. All right, at number 1, we got New York 5-0. At number 2, Minnesota 5-0. So 2 undefeated teams 2 weeks into the season. At 3, we got Phoenix. They're 4-1. At 4, we got Atlanta at 4-2. At 5, we got Seattle at 3-2. At 6, we got the Aces 2-2. 7, we got Washington, who is 3-3. At the 8th spot, we got Golden State, which is 2-3. At the 9th spot, we got Indiana, which is 2-3. 10th spot, LA Sparks, 2-4. 11th spot, Chicago, 1-4. 12 spot Dallas 1-5. 13 spot Connecticut 0-5. So Connecticut is the only team that has not gotten a win. Everybody else has at least one win. Now, for Indiana, Caitlin Clark is out 2 weeks with a quad injury. So they got to manage for 2 weeks and try to stay on the winning side. Let's see. So them being in a ninth spot right now, not horrible. They're 2-3, but I definitely didn't think they would be all the way down there already in 2 weeks. Connecticut, not really a surprise because they're basically starting over with their roster, new coach, everything. So that's not really a surprise to me. The rest of the mix isn't really a surprise either, considering we're only, most teams have only played 5 or 6 games. So it's still everybody's still bunched up, as you can say, as opposed to the top 2 teams who have not lost yet, which is New York and Minnesota. Which I got to see when they actually play each other, because that'll be interesting to see if they're still undefeated by the time they play each other. So that'll be something interesting to keep an eye out for. And so we got 5 games tonight. Let's see. Both undefeated teams play tonight, but they do not play each other. New York plays my Washington Mystics tonight at Washington. And then Minnesota plays at Phoenix. So we'll see if they remain undefeated come week 3. And so what's been the interesting to see is right now the top rookies, in my opinion, are Paige Beckers, Kiki, and Sonia Citron. 2 on the Mystics and then Paige on Dallas. All 3 of them have been playing really well for their teams within the first 2 weeks. And as I said, we got a lot of games. And so I think we'll get a true picture of where everyone lies about halfway through the season. So a little bit before All-Star Weekend, we can really probably are going to be able to see players and teams kind of separate themselves as to being at the top or being at the bottom. Right now it's a little too early for a lot of these teams. As I've told you guys, half the league has new coaches and new systems. There's also a lot of players on new teams. So I think these first couple weeks have been people trying to get used to their new system and their new teammates and their new coach. The 2 teams that are at the top didn't have those type of changes. New York, same core, same coach. They're undefeated. Minnesota, same core, same coach. They're undefeated. Everybody else, they've kind of been going back and forth because a lot of them have new coaches or new pieces that they're trying to get used to. So probably in another 2 or 3 weeks, we'll really kind of see where teams are likely going to fit in the overall scheme of the 13 squads. We'll also, as the season goes on, see which rookies can sustain kind of what they've been doing. If anybody gets even better, if somebody starts to drop off. Because like I said, they got to get used to all this traveling, a lot of games in a week span. It's different than when they were playing in college. So we'll see which rookies kind of keep the momentum. If any rookies hit a wall, we'll see how all that shapes out probably in another couple weeks. So we'll definitely keep an eye on how well the rookies are acclimating themselves to their team, to the new schedule, and just being able to play on the professional level. But so far, those 3 rookies have been on it for their team. So it's been exciting to see them play well coming out of the gates. Now, other rookies have definitely been playing well too, but those are my top 3 as far as rookies of the year candidates as of right now. Things could change, but as of right now, those are the top 3 rookies for me. All right. But yeah, where teams are right now is definitely nobody is overly on the top or overly on the bottom. So a lot of things can change in the next couple weeks. Because you got injuries, people having to sit out for different reasons, whatever you may call it. So we'll see how all that shapes out in the next few weeks. But each week we will kind of watch the progression and see how things change, players wise, team wise, standings wise, and we'll go from there each week and recap. But last night's game between Dallas and Chicago, that was a really good game, and Enrique went off. Enrique went off last night, and I felt bad because Ariel Atkins is a really good defender, but Enrique is an elite offensive player, and she has always been. She's very inconsistent, but she has always been an elite offensive player, and she went off last night. And again, in a few minutes, we will watch some highlights from some games, some key games from the last week. We won't watch all of them, but we'll watch some of the close games that were like battles in the last few minutes. There were a couple blowouts, but not too many. But there were definitely a lot of good games. And that game last night between Chicago and Dallas was good. And Chicago obviously won and got their first win of the season. And Chicago looked a lot better last night than they've looked in their previous games. But again, they have a new coach and they have a couple new pieces. So they're trying to learn each other and create a flow. And it definitely looked a lot better last night than they looked in their previous games. So definitely good to see them. The Golden State New York game was good too, because Golden State was fighting the entire time. Like, that was not an easy win for New York. But that is how the first 2 weeks have gone. I'm getting ready to pull up some highlights now of the games that were close, so you guys can see how they've been going back and forth for a lot of these games. Last episode for May, and our May book was My Greatest Save by Brianna Scurry, goalie for soccer. She was on the women's national team for a long time. She also played in 2 of the previous professional leagues. She did not play in the current one, but the 2 leagues that were started before the NWSL, she played in both of those professional leagues and a lot with Team USA. And I'm going to finish with there's a chapter where she discusses a long journey from a concussion. And we all know that over the years we've taken concussions more seriously than we previously did. And she suffered one that was very, very detrimental, but it took a long time for her to be able to get treatment and have like tangible evidence that this concussion was hurting her in her everyday life, kept her from playing soccer and kept her from doing different things that she was doing on her day-to-day life. And she went through a lengthy process of trying to get coverage as well from the teams that she's played with, dealing with health coverage and just seeing different doctors and getting different professional opinions, and finally nailing it down and actually having a surgical procedure to help with what was happening to her as a player, and then just in her day-to-day life. And I wanted to talk about that because athletes are more in tune with their bodies than, let's say, the average person. And for a while, people were just saying, oh, it's nothing. And it's like, typically when an athlete says something is off, even if you can't physically tell what it is, they're usually right when they say something is off. And a lot of time, especially in women's sports, and with African American women, their takes on their body and what's going on can get overlooked, from friends and family to doctors to coaches to whoever. A lot of times when people will say, "Oh, you're just making it up," and it's just like, a lot of them, they train day in, day out, so they know when their body is in peak shape. They know when something is off. And as a trainer, like, I try to get my clients to get to the point where they learn their bodies. Like, that's one of the biggest things I wanted to push on people, even if they weren't athletes. Learning your body, listening to it, knowing when you're in peak shape, what you were doing to contribute to that, knowing when you feel something off and what contributes to that, and paying attention to those small signs, because those small signs, you can help you nip something in the bud before it gets worse or before it gets out of control. And she fought for years and years, because she knew something was off, and even if certain people wouldn't listen to her, she continued to fight and continued to push for herself, and eventually found people who were able to find things to support what she was saying and get the procedure done. And she said so many people were telling her it's in her head. And it's she has a little quote in here once she finally got a diagnosis from a doctor, and she's like, "You are right. The problems are all in my head. My jackhammer headaches, my mental deficit, my memory loss, my cognitive struggles. It's 100% in my head. Maybe you'd like to be me for a day and see how you like it." And I think that's just kind of indicative, especially 10, 15 years ago, they would tell people, "Oh, it's all in your head." And it's just like, sometimes the problem is in their head, especially if they've had concussions. And that goes with anything else, any other injuries. When people feel off, especially people that know their bodies, like, paying attention to that, because that's usually your body signaling to you that you need to seek some type of help or get something taken care of, or take care of yourself better. But it's a really good book. Brianna Scurry, My Greatest Save. That was the book for May. In June, we will have a new book, and we will have excerpts from there as well. But that's my advice to anybody listening as well. Learn your body and pay attention when it's giving you warning signs. Even if someone else may not see it or believe it, pay attention. Pay attention to those warning signs that your body gives you. The body's designed to, give you warning signs and let you know something's up. You gotta check this out. So definitely learn your body and pay attention. But that's the book of the month. It's been a great month. I hope you guys have learned something. That's another book to add to your library if you are a reader. So definitely check it out if you want. Next month we will have another book. Of course, all the books will come from somewhere in the world of women's sports. So definitely stay tuned. We'll have a new book coming for June. I'm excited about it. I love reading and learning about people's experiences and getting things from them firsthand, whether it's a coach or an athlete, getting a firsthand insight into what they've gone through and how they've adjusted and how they've overcome things and how they've reached goals or how they've helped others. So definitely looking forward to introducing more books to you guys. But that is the book for May. Alright, so today's episode we covered the Women's Hockey League Finals, which Minnesota are 2-time champs for the Professional Women's Hockey League. So congratulations to Minnesota Frost. As I said, they have 2 new teams starting in 2026. So they have an expansion draft in June, but they also have their regular draft in June. And the New York team has the number 1 pick. The rest of the order has not been announced yet. So as I get more information, we'll go over that in another episode and kind of see how 2026 is shaping out for all these different teams. It was an exciting series to watch. As I said, you can pull up their YouTube. All their games are on there. Definitely check them out. Excited that I finally got some merch. Definitely plan on getting some more, but definitely glad that I finally got some merch for the hockey league. And then we talked about week 2 of the WNBA. Some really great games. Our rookies are still looking good. New York and Minnesota are the only 2 undefeated teams right now. So each week we'll see how long these teams stay undefeated. There's been a lot of close games, so definitely catch some games if you can. There's definitely been some really good back and forth games amongst a lot of different teams. So everybody's kind of in the middle of the pack right now. There's no real separation outside of New York and Minnesota, which are the 2 undefeated teams. Everybody else is kind of all right next to each other record-wise. So we'll see how that develops each week. But so thank you guys for tuning in. As always, welcome home, Lady Blue Flames. Our goal is to educate, appreciate, promote, and support women's sports. That is the goal of this channel. Educate, appreciate, promote, and support women's sports. All leagues, all sports. So at some point we will cover them all. Thank you again. Welcome home.